Welcome to BlitzBiz. I'm Dr. Applesmith. Let's begin with today's video. On May 20th, 2026, a document was filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission that stopped Wall Street in its tracks. It wasn't from Apple. It wasn't from Microsoft. It wasn't from any company that had existed for decades. It was from a rocket company that most people thought would never go public. SpaceX, Elon Musk's aerospace giant, just filed for the biggest IPO in the history of financial markets. Bigger than Saudi Aramco, bigger than Alibaba, bigger than anything Wall Street has ever seen. Target valuation, up to $2 trillion. Amount being raised, $75 billion in a single day. And here's the part nobody's talking about. When you buy a share of SpaceX, you won't actually control anything. One man will. This is the story of the most exciting, most dangerous, and most consequential stock offering in history. To understand why SpaceX's IPO is such a big deal, you need to understand what this company actually built. In 2002, Elon Musk took $100 million of the money he made selling PayPal and started a rocket company. Everyone thought he was insane. Rockets were the exclusive domain of governments: NASA, the Russian Space Agency, the European Space Agency. No private company had ever successfully launched a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. Musk's first 3 launches failed. Completely, expensively, publicly. He had enough money for one more attempt. The 4th launch succeeded. In 2008, SpaceX became the first private company to reach orbit with a liquid-fueled rocket. Then the real work began. Musk had one obsession that no one else in the industry shared: reusability. Every rocket before SpaceX was use once. You'd spend $150 million building it, launch it, and it would fall into the ocean and sink forever. Musk said that was insane. Imagine if every time you flew on an airplane, they threw the plane away. It took 8 years and billions of dollars. But in 2015, SpaceX successfully landed an orbital rocket booster back on its launch pad. The aerospace industry was shaken to its core. Today, SpaceX launches the same booster 20, 30, sometimes 40 times. Cost to orbit dropped from $54,000 per kilogram to under $2,000. They didn't just change the rocket industry, they collapsed it. By 2026, SpaceX launches more than 80% of all mass to orbit globally every year. Their nearest competitor, United Launch Alliance, does about 8%. This is not a competitive market. This is a monopoly with rockets. But rockets are not actually why SpaceX is worth $2 trillion. Starlink is. Here's what Starlink is. SpaceX has been launching thousands of small satellites into low Earth orbit, creating a constellation of internet beaming satellites that can provide high-speed internet to anyone, anywhere on the planet. Currently, Starlink has 10.3 million subscribers across 164 countries. That number is growing by over 1 million subscribers every few months. In rural America, in the Australian outback, in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, if you can see the sky, you can have fast internet. Governments are buying it. Militaries are using it. Ukraine used Starlink to maintain communications during the Russian invasion. The US military uses it. Airlines are installing it on planes. And in the S1 filing, Starlink generated $1.2 billion in profit in a single quarter. That's $4.8 billion a year from satellite internet. Now here's where it gets really interesting. SpaceX is in talks with every major telecom company on Earth to allow regular mobile phones, your iPhone, your Android, to connect directly to Starlink satellites. No cell tower needed. If that happens, SpaceX becomes the backbone of global mobile communications. That's not a $2 trillion company. That's potentially a $10 trillion company. And Wall Street knows it. When a company files an S1, it's required to show you its real financials for the first time. No more rumors. No more estimates. Just the actual numbers. Here's what SpaceX's S1 revealed. 2025 revenue, $18.7 billion, up 33% from the year before. Starlink revenue, the biggest driver, and growing fast. Bitcoin holdings, 18,712 Bitcoin, worth $1.29 billion at the time of filing. SpaceX holds more Bitcoin than most crypto companies. Accumulated deficit, meaning the total amount SpaceX has lost over its entire history, $41.3 billion. Current quarterly net loss, $4.27 billion. Let me put that into perspective. SpaceX is losing over $4 billion every 3 months right now, and it wants you to value it at $2 trillion. For comparison, when Amazon went public in 1997, it was losing money too. It didn't become profitable until 2003. Patient investors who held on made 100,000% returns. Is SpaceX the next Amazon? Or is it the next WeWork? A company that burned billions on a story that never quite added up. That is the $2 trillion question. Now we need to talk about the elephant in the room, Elon Musk. Because when you buy SpaceX stock, you're not just buying a rocket company or a satellite internet business. You're betting on one man, and that man controls 85% of the voting power in this company. That means Musk can single-handedly approve mergers, fire the entire board, sell the company to himself, take SpaceX private again, pivot to building submarines, whatever he wants. Public shareholders, or the people who buy this stock, will have almost no say in any of it. Now look at Musk's track record as a public company CEO. Tesla transformed the car industry. Stock up 20,000% since IPO. One of the greatest investments in history. Twitter, now X, paid $44 billion. Immediately lost 80% of its advertising revenue. Alienated half the user base. Still privately valued at a fraction of what he paid. His government role in Doge created enormous political controversy and directly impacted Tesla's sales as consumers reacted to his political positions. Musk is simultaneously running SpaceX, Tesla, X, xAI, Neuralink, and the Boring Company. When does he sleep? That's not a joke. That's a genuine risk factor for a $2 trillion investment. The S1 actually lists Musk's divided attention as a risk. In the document that's supposed to make you want to invest, they warn you that the CEO might not be paying enough attention. You don't see that in many S1 filings. In February 2026, Musk did something that raised eyebrows across Wall Street. He merged SpaceX with xAI, his artificial intelligence company. The combined entity was valued at $1.25 trillion. On paper, this makes sense. SpaceX needs AI to run autonomous rockets, autonomous Starlink satellite positioning, and to compete in the AI infrastructure space, but xAI was burning $1 billion a month at the time of the merger. And multiple co-founders of xAI had already left the company. SpaceX also signed a deal with Cursor, an AI coding tool worth $10 billion. If SpaceX doesn't acquire Cursor within the agreed time frame, they owe a $10 billion breakup fee. That's a $10 billion penalty for not buying a company. The risk here is that SpaceX's clean story, rockets plus Starlink, is now tangled up with AI bets that may or may not pay off. The bull case, SpaceX becomes the AWS of space, infrastructure for the next century of human civilization. The bear case, xAI's losses drag down Starlink's profits, the Cursor deal goes sideways, and investors who bought at $2 trillion are holding a very expensive lesson. So the question everyone in America is asking this week, should you buy SpaceX stock? Let me give you the honest answer. The bull case is genuinely extraordinary. SpaceX has no real competition in launch. None. Boeing's Starliner program has been a disaster. Blue Origin is years behind. The Chinese have not cracked reusability at scale. Starlink has 10 million subscribers today, and the global satellite internet market is projected to be worth $50 billion a year by 2030. Direct-to-device mobile integration could make Starlink the default global telecom infrastructure. And Musk, whatever you think of him personally, has repeatedly delivered on things people said were impossible. The bear case is equally real. At $2 trillion, you're paying 100 times current revenue. That's an extraordinary premium for a company losing $4 billion a quarter. Musk's attention is genuinely divided across 6 companies. The XAI merger added complexity and risk that wasn't there before. And 85% voting control in one person's hands means you are completely at the mercy of his decisions. Here's what I'll say. If you have $500, you're willing to lose entirely. SpaceX might be one of the most interesting speculative bets of the decade. If you're investing your retirement savings or money you can't afford to lose, the risk profile here is not what most people realize when they see the name Elon Musk. The IPO is expected June 12th, 2026. The world will be watching. But here's what I think is actually the most important thing about the SpaceX IPO. It's not about the money. It's about what it means. For the first time in human history, the infrastructure to reach space is being privatized. Governments built the original space race. Governments put men on the moon. Governments launched the Hubble telescope. Now a single private company controls 80% of access to orbit, and it's about to sell shares to the public. What SpaceX is really selling is not a stock. It's a ticket to own a piece of the next chapter of human civilization. Whether that chapter goes the way Musk envisions, a multiplanetary species, Mars colonies, humanity as a spacefaring civilization, or whether it goes the way of every other overhyped revolution that promised to change everything. That's the real bet. $75 billion says the former. History will decide. The Saudi Aramco IPO in 2019 was the biggest in history, $29 billion raised in a single day. SpaceX is targeting $75 billion, 2.5 times bigger. If you want to understand the companies and decisions that are literally shaping the future of humanity, subscribe to BlitzBiz.